On the outskirts of town lies a dense forest, shrouded in mystery and fear. Four friends, Alex, Sarah, Mark, and Jessica, venture into the woods, despite warnings of its haunted past. As they step into the darkness, eerie whispers seem to echo through the trees. Deep within the woods, they stumble upon an abandoned cabin, its windows boarded up and doors creaking in the wind. Against their better judgment, they enter, drawn by an inexplicable force. Inside, the air is heavy with the weight of forgotten secrets. Within the cabin, they find decaying furniture and cobwebs clinging to every corner. Strange symbols are etched into the walls, and the floorboards creak underfoot. Suddenly, they hear a faint whisper, chilling them to the bone. As they explore further, a sense of unease washes over them. Shadows dance in the corners of their vision, and the temperature drops. Then, they catch a glimpse of a spectral figure standing in the doorway, its eyes glowing with otherworldly light. Panic sets in as the ghostly figure approaches, its presence growing more ominous by the second. With hearts pounding, the friends flee the cabin, running blindly through the dark forest. Behind them, they hear the echoing laughter of the spirits that inhabit the woods. Exhausted and trembling, the friends emerge from the woods, their minds reeling from the horrors they've witnessed. They vow never to return to the forbidden woods, haunted by the echoes of their harrowing encounter.
On a chilly autumn evening, four friends, Mark, Lisa, Danny, and Sophie, arrived at the small, deserted village of Hollow Creek. They had heard rumors of a haunting and wanted to investigate. The village was eerily quiet, with mist curling around the old, decaying buildings. The friends walked through the empty streets, their footsteps echoing. They saw abandoned houses, broken street lamps, and overgrown gardens. As they explored, they noticed strange symbols carved into the doors and walls of the houses. They found an old inn at the center of the village. The door creaked as they pushed it open. Inside, the inn was dark and cold. Dust covered the furniture and a musty smell filled the air. They decided to stay there for the night, hoping to uncover the village's secrets. As night fell, the friends gathered in the main room of the inn. They set up their sleeping bags and lit a small fire in the fireplace. The flickering light cast eerie shadows on the walls. They heard faint whispers and creaks, but dismissed them as the old building settling. At midnight, Sophie woke up to a strange noise. She saw a figure standing at the foot of her sleeping bag. She screamed, waking the others. The figure vanished, but the friends could still feel its presence. They huddled together, too scared to sleep. The next morning, they decided to search the inn for clues. In an old chest, they found a diary. It belonged to a girl named Emily who lived in the village decades ago. Her last entry spoke of a dark presence that haunted Hollow Creek, driving the villagers away. As they read the diary, they learned that Emily had tried to summon spirits to help the village, but something went wrong. Instead of help, she had unleashed a malevolent entity. The friends realized that the haunting was real, and they were in grave danger. Suddenly, the room grew cold. The friends could see their breath in the air. The entity appeared before them, a dark, shadowy figure with glowing red eyes. It moved towards them, whispering in a language they couldn't understand. Panic set in as they tried to find a way out. Mark found an old key in the diary. Desperate, he used it on a hidden door they hadn't noticed before. The door led to a tunnel beneath the inn. The friends rushed through the tunnel, the entity's whispers echoing behind them. They emerged outside, gasping for breath. The friends didn't stop running until they were far from Hollow Creek. Exhausted and terrified, they vowed never to speak of what happened. As they left, they could still hear the faint whispers of the entity, warning them never to return.
Briarwood Manor stood silent and foreboding at the end of a long, winding road. Jane, a young historian, arrived just as the sun was setting. She had heard stories about the mansion's dark past and was determined to uncover the truth. As she approached the front door, the wind howled and the trees whispered ominously. Jane pushed open the heavy wooden door, which creaked loudly. The interior was dark and filled with the smell of dust and decay. She turned on her flashlight, revealing a grand but dilapidated foyer. The once beautiful chandeliers hung broken, and the walls were lined with tattered wallpaper. In the main hallway, Jane's flashlight beam fell on a large portrait of a stern-looking man. The eyes seemed to follow her as she moved. She felt a shiver run down her spine. Suddenly, a cold breeze blew through the hallway, and the portrait's expression changed to one of anger. Jane discovered a hidden door behind a bookshelf in the library. She pushed it open to find a small, secret room. The room was filled with old, dusty books and strange artifacts. In the center of the room was a table with a large, leather-bound journal. She opened it and began to read. The journal belonged to William Briarwood, the original owner of the manor. It detailed dark rituals and a pact with a malevolent spirit to gain wealth and power. The final entry mentioned a curse that would doom anyone who lived in the house. Jane realized the manor was haunted by the spirits of those sacrificed in the rituals. As Jane read the journal, she heard whispers around her. Ghostly figures of the sacrificed appeared, their faces twisted in agony. They warned her to leave before it was too late. The temperature in the room dropped, and Jane could see her breath. She knew she had to get out. Rushing to leave, Jane encountered the malevolent spirit of William Briarwood himself. He appeared at the top of the grand staircase, his eyes glowing with an evil light. He blocked her path, his voice echoing through the manor, threatening her for disturbing his peace. Jane ran through the dark hallways, the spirit close behind her. She burst through the front door and into the night. The manor seemed to sigh as she left, the wind howling around her. She didn't stop running until she reached her car. As she drove away, she could still feel the spirit's eyes on her. Safe in her apartment, Jane reviewed the footage she had captured. The images of the spirits and the journal entries were clear evidence of the haunting. She knew she had to share the story, but a part of her feared the curse might follow her. She felt a cold draft and shivered, wondering if she was truly safe.
In the heart of Blackwood Forest, a group of friends, Jack, Sarah, Luke, and Emma, embarks on a dare to explore the forbidden woods. As they enter the forest, tall trees cast long shadows, and a sense of foreboding hangs in the air. Pushing deeper into the forest, they follow a winding path that seems to disappear into the shadows. The air grows cooler, and strange noises echo through the trees. Despite their growing unease, they press on, driven by curiosity and adrenaline. Suddenly, they stumble upon a moonlit clearing, the ground littered with decaying leaves and gnarled roots. In the center stands an ancient, dilapidated cabin, its windows shattered and its doors hanging off their hinges. The air is heavy with the stench of decay. With trepidation, they approach the cabin and cautiously step inside. The interior is shrouded in darkness, the only light coming from their flickering flashlights. Cobwebs cling to the walls and the floorboards creak ominously beneath their feet. As they explore further, they begin to hear faint whispers that seem to emanate from the walls themselves. The whispers grow louder and more insistent, filling the cabin with an otherworldly chorus that sends shivers down their spines. Suddenly, a dark shadow materializes before them, its form shifting and twisting in the dim light. It looms over them, its eyes glowing with malevolence as it reaches out with ghostly hands. Frozen with fear, they realize they have awakened something ancient and sinister. With a collective scream, the friends flee from the cabin, their hearts pounding with terror. They race through the forest, the shadows closing in around them as they run. Behind them, they can hear the echoing laughter of the darkness that lurks within Blackwood Forest. Exhausted and trembling, the friends emerge from Blackwood Forest, their minds reeling from the horrors they've witnessed. They vow never to return to the haunted woods, haunted by the shadows that lurk within its depths. A narrow path winds its way into the heart of the dense forest, the trees towering overhead like ancient guardians. As the sun dips below the horizon, long shadows stretch across the forest floor, setting a sinister tone for what lies ahead. Within the depths of the forest lies a moonlit clearing, bathed in an ethereal glow. The towering trees encircle the space, their branches swaying in an unsettling silence. Wisps of fog creep along the ground, adding to the eerie atmosphere of the secluded grove. Amidst the darkness stands an abandoned cabin, its once sturdy structure now crumbling under the weight of neglect. Boarded-up windows and sagging roof shingles give it a desolate appearance, while the encroaching vines seem to reclaim it for nature. The air is heavy with a palpable sense of unease. The forest path twists and turns, disappearing into the inky darkness of the woods. Twisted roots snake across the forest floor, tripping hazards in the dim light. Above, the canopy creates eerie patterns of shadow and light, adding to the sense of disorientation and dread. Within the depths of the forest flows the Whispering Brook, its gentle waters shimmering in the pale moonlight. Overhanging branches sway in the night breeze, casting eerie shadows that dance upon the surface of the water. Despite its serene appearance, an underlying sense of unease lingers in the air. Deep within the forest lies a forgotten graveyard, its weathered tombstones bearing silent witness to the passage of time. Wisps of mist cling to the ground, shrouding the graves in an otherworldly haze. The air is thick with the weight of forgotten souls, their presence palpable in the stillness of the night. A decaying bridge stretches across a gaping chasm, its once sturdy structure now a maze of rusted metal and rotting wood. The sound of creaking echoes through the night as the bridge sways precariously in the breeze. Moonlight filters through the gaps, casting unsettling shadows upon the turbulent waters below. A grove of twisted trees stands in the heart of the forest, their gnarled branches reaching out like skeletal fingers. Wisps of fog weave between the trunks, and the air is thick with an oppressive silence. In the depths of the forest stands a forsaken well, its stone walls weathered by time and neglect. Moss and ivy cling.
In a quaint lakeside town, Sarah and Chris arrive at a secluded cabin for a weekend getaway. The air is crisp, and the lake shimmers in the sunlight. Excited for a peaceful retreat, they unload their bags and set foot into the cabin. As Sarah and Chris settle into the cabin, they notice strange occurrences: a flickering light, doors creaking on their own. Sarah brushes it off as quirks of an old cabin, but Chris grows increasingly uneasy. Something feels off about the place. Curiosity gets the best of them, and Sarah and Chris decide to explore the surrounding woods. The trees seem to whisper secrets as they wander deeper into the forest. The atmosphere grows thick with tension, and Sarah can't shake the feeling they're being watched. Lost in the woods, Sarah and Chris stumble upon an abandoned shack. It's dilapidated, covered in moss and ivy. Despite Chris's protests, Sarah insists on investigating. Inside, they find cryptic symbols scrawled on the walls. As night falls, Sarah is plagued by vivid nightmares, a ghostly figure beckoning from the darkness, whispering cryptic warnings. She wakes in a cold sweat, shaken to her core. Chris tries to comfort her, but the feeling of dread lingers. Desperate for answers, Sarah and Chris return to the lake. The water is still and murky, reflecting the night sky like a black mirror. Sarah feels a chill run down her spine as she stares into its depths, sensing an ancient presence lurking beneath the surface. In a moment of recklessness, Sarah decides to confront the entity haunting them. She ventures into the woods alone, following the whispers that lead her deeper into the darkness. Chris follows, desperate to protect her from whatever lurks within. In the heart of the forest, Sarah and Chris come face to face with the source of the haunting, a restless spirit trapped in Willow Lake for centuries. It pleads for release, its voice echoing through the trees. Sarah and Chris realize they must help the spirit find peace before it's too late. With a heavy heart, Sarah and Chris perform a ritual to release the spirit from its earthly bonds. The air crackles with magic as they recite ancient incantations, channeling their energy into the lake. As the last words are spoken, a blinding light fills the forest, and the spirit ascends, finally finding peace. As dawn breaks over Willow Lake, Sarah and Chris emerge from the forest, weary but victorious. The haunted whispers have faded, replaced by the soothing sounds of nature. They share a knowing glance, grateful for the bond that brought them through the darkness.
On a foggy night, 4 friends, Jack, Mia, Ethan, and Sophie, arrived at Blackwood Manor. The old abandoned mansion was said to be cursed. They had come to investigate the legend. They pushed it open the heavy front door, which creaked loudly. Inside, the air was cold and stale. Dust covered every surface, and cobwebs hung in the corners. The living room was filled with old furniture covered in white sheets. An antique chandelier hung from the ceiling, and a grand piano stood in the corner. Suddenly, the piano played a single, eerie note, causing everyone to jump. They moved to the library, where shelves of dusty books lined the walls. Jack picked up an old book, and as he opened it, A cold breeze swept through the room, making the candles flicker. They entered a long hallway filled with old portraits. The eyes of the portraits seemed to follow them as they walked. Mia shivered, feeling a chill run down her spine. At the end of the hallway, they found a door leading to the basement. Despite their fear, they decided to go down. The wooden stairs creaked under their weight, and the air grew colder with each step. The basement was cold and damp. Strange symbols were drawn on the walls. In the corner, they saw a ghostly figure of a woman in a tattered dress. She reached out to them, and they felt an icy chill. Terrified, they ran up the stairs and out of the house. The door slammed shut behind them, and they could still hear the ghostly whispers. They vowed never to return. Back at their homes, the friends sat together, still shaken by their experience. They knew they had encountered something truly terrifying and decided never to speak of it again.
On a moonless night, a car winds its way along a desolate road flanked by dense forest. Inside the car are four friends, Sam, Emily, Alex, and Lily, on their way to a remote cabin for a weekend getaway. The headlights cut through the darkness, casting long shadows on the trees. Eventually, they arrive at the remote cabin, a rustic wooden structure nestled among the trees. The air is still, and the only sound is the distant hoot of an owl. As they unpack their belongings, a sense of isolation settles over them, amplifying the feeling of unease. As night falls, the friends decide to explore the surrounding forest, eager for adventure. But as they venture deeper into the woods, they feel an oppressive presence weighing down on them. Strange symbols are etched into the trees, their meanings lost to time. Suddenly, a chill wind sweeps through the forest, carrying with it faint whispers that seem to echo through the trees. The friends stop in their tracks, their hearts pounding in their chests. The whispers grow louder, filling the air with an eerie chorus that sends shivers down their spines. Suddenly, ghostly apparitions materialize among the trees, translucent figures with hollow eyes and outstretched hands. Their ethereal forms glow faintly in the darkness, and their voices fill the air with haunting wails. The friends watch in horror as the spirits drift closer, their movements slow and deliberate. With adrenaline coursing through their veins, the friends turn and flee from the forest, their footsteps echoing through the darkness. Branches claw at their clothes, and roots trip them up as they race back to the safety of the cabin. Behind them, the ghostly spirits follow, their unearthly wails growing fainter with each step. Exhausted and trembling, the friends burst through the door of the cabin, their minds reeling from the horrors they've witnessed. They lock the door behind them, their hearts still racing with fear. Inside the cabin, they huddle together, grateful for the safety of four walls and a roof.
In the dead of night, a group of friends, Sarah, Mark, and Emily, arrive at the imposing Ravenswood Manor, a sprawling mansion nestled deep within the forest. The moon casts an eerie glow over the overgrown grounds as they approach the decrepit mansion, drawn by tales of its haunted past. As they step through the creaking front door, the group is enveloped by darkness. The air is thick with dust, and the floorboards groan beneath their feet. Sarah lights a lantern, casting flickering shadows on the walls as they explore the abandoned foyer. As they venture further into the mansion, they are greeted by the sound of whispers echoing through the hallways. The walls seem to close in around them, and Sarah's lantern flickers ominously. They exchange nervous glances, but press on, determined to uncover the secrets of Ravenswood Manor. In the heart of the mansion, they discover a forgotten library, its shelves lined with dusty tomes and ancient manuscripts. Emily's heart races as she picks up a weathered book, its pages filled with cryptic symbols and arcane rituals. Suddenly, a cold breeze fills the room, and the books on the shelves begin to sway as if moved by unseen hands. As they explore further, they come across a portrait hanging on the wall, a grim-faced man with piercing eyes that seem to follow their every move. Mark shudders as he gazes into the man's cold, lifeless eyes, and Sarah quickly averts her gaze, unable to shake the feeling of being watched. As night falls, the mansion comes alive with ghostly apparitions and otherworldly sounds. Emily's heart races as she catches a glimpse of a figure moving in the shadows, its form shifting and indistinct. She cries out in fear, and the others rush to her side, their lanterns casting shaky light on the empty hallway. As the night wears on, the group's sanity begins to fray. They are plagued by visions and nightmares, their minds filled with images of death and despair. Sarah clutches her head in agony as she hears voices whispering in the darkness, urging her to embrace the madness that lurks within Ravenswood Manor. In a desperate bid to escape the madness that grips them, the group confronts the malevolent force that haunts Ravenswood Manor. With trembling hands, they perform a ritual to banish the darkness, their voices raised in a desperate plea for salvation. And as the first light of dawn breaks through the windows, the mansion shudders and groans, the darkness receding into the shadows from whence it came.
Emma, a writer in her early 30s, moves into an old Victorian house in Willow Creek. She hopes the secluded house will help her overcome her writer's block. As she steps into the house, the air feels heavy, and she hears faint whispers echoing through the empty rooms. On her first night, Emma struggles to sleep. The house creaks and groans as if it's alive. She hears footsteps in the hallway, but when she checks, there's no one there. Her unease grows, but she convinces herself it's just the house settling. While exploring the attic, Emma finds an old diary belonging to a girl named Lily. The diary speaks of strange occurrences and a tragic story of how Lily disappeared without a trace. Emma feels a chill run down her spine as she reads the last unfinished entry. The following night, the whispers return, clearer and more urgent. Shadows flicker and move on their own. Emma sees a ghostly figure of a young girl in the hallway, who vanishes as soon as she approaches. Fear takes hold of her. Terrified, Emma reaches out to the town's historian, Mr. Thompson. He tells her about the legend of Lily, a girl who disappeared many years ago. The house has a history of hauntings, and no one has lived there for long. Emma realizes she must uncover the truth to find peace. Determined, Emma performs a séance to communicate with Lily's spirit. As she calls out, the room grows cold, and the ghostly figure of Lily appears. Lily reveals she was murdered, and begs for Emma's help to find her remains and put her to rest. Following Lily's clues, Emma discovers a hidden cellar beneath the house. There she finds Lily's remains and a locket with her name. Emma feels a mix of horror and relief, knowing she can finally help Lily find peace. Emma arranges a proper burial for Lily. As she places the locket in Lily's grave, a sense of calm envelops the area. The whispers cease and the house feels lighter. Emma feels a deep sense of closure and knows she has done the right thing. With the haunting over, Emma finishes her novel, inspired by Lily's story. The house no longer feels oppressive. Instead, it's filled with a comforting, serene atmosphere. Emma sits by the window looking out at the sunny landscape, ready to start a new chapter in her life.
In a small town shrouded in mist, there stood an ancient mansion, long abandoned and rumored to be haunted. Its dark silhouette cast a foreboding presence over the surrounding landscape, sending shivers down the spines of all who beheld it. Emily and Alex, two adventurous souls seeking thrills, stood before the rusted gates of the mansion. Despite warnings from locals, they were drawn to its mystery like moths to a flame. "Let's explore," Alex said, his voice tinged with excitement. As they crossed the threshold, the air grew heavy with the weight of centuries past. Cobwebs clung to the walls like spectral shrouds, and the faint echo of footsteps seemed to follow them into the darkness. Emily's heart raced as she whispered, "What have we gotten ourselves into?" Exploring deeper into the mansion's depths, Emily and Alex stumbled upon forgotten rooms filled with relics of a bygone era. Dust-covered portraits stared down at them with hollow eyes, and strange symbols adorned the walls. Each discovery sent a chill down their spines, but they pressed on, determined to uncover the truth. As they ventured further into the mansion, they encountered a presence unlike anything they had ever known. A spectral figure materialized before them, its ethereal form swathed in darkness. With a voice like ice, it whispered, "You dare to disturb my slumber?" With terror gripping their hearts, Emily and Alex fled through the twisting corridors of the mansion, pursued by unseen forces. Shadows seemed to reach out and grasp at them, and the air grew thick with the stench of decay. "We have to get out of here," Emily cried, her voice echoing in the darkness. At last they reached the heart of the mansion, where the source of its malevolence awaited. A swirling vortex of darkness engulfed them, threatening to consume their very souls. With trembling hands, Emily and Alex prepared to face the horrors that lurked within. In a final act of bravery, Emily and Alex confronted the darkness head-on. With artifacts in hand, they battled against the malevolent force that sought to claim them. With a burst of light, the curse that had plagued the mansion for centuries was finally broken. Emerging from the mansion's depths, Emily and Alex breathed a sigh of relief as sunlight broke through the clouds above. Though their adventure had been fraught with danger, they emerged stronger, their bond forged in the crucible of the haunted mansion. As they walked away from the mansion, Emily and Alex knew that they had faced their fears and triumphed over the darkness that had threatened to consume them. Though the mansion would forever remain a place of mystery and terror, they would always carry with them the lessons they had learned on that fateful night. It was a gloomy autumn afternoon when Emma, Liam, and Sarah arrived at Hollow Hill. The old mansion, inherited by Emma from a distant relative, stood isolated atop a hill surrounded by thick leafless trees. The wind howled and the sky was an ominous gray. "This place is huge," Liam said, looking up at the towering structure. "And creepy," Emma nodded, clutching the old rusted key. "Let's get inside before it gets dark." They pushed open the creaky door and stepped into a grand dusty foyer. The air was thick with the smell of decay, and shadows danced in the corners. The interior of the mansion was just as foreboding. Cobwebs draped the chandeliers and the floorboards creaked under their weight. As they explored, they found rooms filled with antique furniture, old portraits, and thick layers of dust. "Look at this," Sarah said, pointing to a large dusty portrait of a stern-looking man. "He must be one of your ancestors, Emma." Emma shivered. "Let's keep looking." In the library, they discovered a collection of ancient books. One particularly old book caught Emma's eye. It was bound in dark leather with a strange symbol on the cover. "This looks interesting," Emma said, opening it carefully. That night, they settled into their rooms. The mansion was eerily silent, with only the sound of the wind outside. As Emma lay in bed, she couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. Suddenly, she heard whispers. Sitting up, she saw a shadow move across the room. "Who's there?" she called out. But there was no response. Terrified, she ran to Liam's room. "Liam, I saw something." Liam rubbed his eyes. "It was probably just your imagination. This place is spooky." But Emma knew what she saw. Something was not right in Hollow Hill. The next day, Emma and her friends decided to investigate the history of the mansion. In the library, they found an old journal belonging to the man in the portrait, Sir Edward Holloway. "Listen to this," Emma said, reading aloud. "He writes about strange rituals and dark magic." Sarah's eyes widened. That explains the creepy vibes. As they continued reading, they discovered that Sir Edward had conducted forbidden experiments, trying to unlock the secrets of immortality. Many people had gone missing in the area during his time. "This is bad," Liam said. "We need to be careful." While exploring the basement, they stumbled upon a hidden door behind a stack of old crates. Inside, they found a secret laboratory filled with strange equipment and jars containing bizarre specimens. "This must be where Sir Edward conducted his experiments," Liam said, examining the equipment. On a table, they found an old diary. As Emma read it, she discovered detailed accounts of the rituals and experiments Sir Edward had performed. "He was trying to summon something," Emma said, her voice trembling. "Something evil." Suddenly, the air grew cold, and they heard a low, guttural growl. That night, the mansion came alive with supernatural activity. Doors slammed shut, lights flickered, and ghostly figures appeared in the hallways. Emma, Liam, and Sarah huddled together, terrified. "We need to get out of here," Sarah said, her voice shaking. But as they tried to leave, the front door wouldn't budge. It was as if the house itself was trapping them inside. "There's no way out," Liam said, panic in his voice. Emma remembered the book she found in the library. "There must be a way to stop this. We need to find the ritual to banish whatever he summoned." Back in the library, Emma frantically searched through the book for the banishment ritual. The ghostly figures grew more aggressive, knocking over furniture and whispering threats. "Here it is," Emma shouted, finding the ritual. As she began to recite the incantation, the room grew colder. A dark, shadowy figure appeared, towering over them. You cannot banish me, the figure hissed. This house is mine. Emma's voice wavered, but she continued the ritual. The shadow screamed in rage, its form flickering and destabilizing. Keep going, Emma, Liam urged. The shadowy figure lunged at them, but a bright light emanated from the book, pushing it back. Emma continued the incantation, her voice gaining strength. You will not win, the shadow roared, but it was growing weaker. With a final burst of energy, Emma completed the ritual. The shadow screamed one last time before disintegrating into a cloud of dark mist. The mansion shook violently, then fell silent. The oppressive atmosphere lifted, and the ghostly figures vanished. We did it, Sarah said, tears of relief in her eyes. But Emma knew it wasn't over. The house had secrets yet to reveal. In the days that followed, the mansion remained quiet. Emma and her friends cleaned up and prepared to leave. But as they packed, they couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. We should go, Liam said. This place is too dangerous. Emma nodded. Let's leave this nightmare behind. They locked the mansion and drove away, vowing never to return. But as they looked back, they saw a figure in the window watching them leave. Did you see that? Sarah whispered. Just keep driving, Emma said, gripping the wheel tightly. We're never coming back. Back in their hometown, life slowly returned to normal. But Emma couldn't forget what happened. One night she found the old book on her bedside table, even though she had left it at the mansion. Her heart raced as she opened it. The pages had changed, now filled with new, ominous entries. Welcome back, a voice whispered behind her. Emma spun around to see the shadowy figure from the mansion, its eyes glowing with malevolence. You can never escape Hollow Hill, it said, reaching out for her. Emma screamed, the room plunging into darkness.
In a secluded village surrounded by dense forests, there was a legend of the Whispering Woods, where the trees whispered secrets and shadows danced in the moonlight. A group of friends, led by Sarah, ventured into the Whispering Woods, drawn by the allure of the mysterious tales. They entered with trepidation, their hearts pounding with excitement and fear. As they delved deeper into the woods, the air grew thick with an unnatural chill, and the trees seemed to whisper secrets in a language unknown. Sarah led the group onward, her determination masking her growing unease. They stumbled upon a small clearing bathed in an ethereal glow, where ghostly figures danced in the moonlight, their laughter echoing eerily through the woods. Sarah hesitated, sensing danger lurking in the shadows. As they tried to leave, the forest seemed to shift around them, trapping them in a nightmarish maze of twisting paths and tangled roots. Panic set in as they realized they were lost in the Whispering Woods. In the heart of the forest, they encountered an ancient guardian, a towering figure cloaked in darkness, its eyes gleaming with malevolence. Sarah knew they had trespassed into a realm beyond their understanding. With courage born of desperation, Sarah and her friends made a final dash for freedom, racing through the twisting paths as the guardian's laughter echoed behind them. At last, they emerged from the Whispering Woods, shaken but alive.
In a quiet, small town nestled among rolling hills, the last rays of the setting sun paint the sky in hues of orange and pink. Cozy houses line the streets, their windows glowing warmly against the encroaching darkness. But beneath the tranquil facade, whispers of something sinister linger in the air. On the outskirts of town stands an old, abandoned house, its once grand facade now crumbling and decayed. Windows are boarded up, and the yard is overrun with weeds that seem to reach out like grasping fingers. Moonlight bathes the scene in an otherworldly glow, casting long, ominous shadows that seem to pulse with a life of their own. Inside the abandoned house, the living room is frozen in time, its once grandeur now a distant memory. Dusty furniture sits silent and still, draped in cobwebs that hang like gossamer threads from the ceiling. Moonlight filters weakly through cracks in the boarded-up windows, casting eerie patterns that dance upon the worn floorboards. Beyond the abandoned house stretches a dense forest, its twisted trees looming like silent sentinels in the darkness. Long, twisted shadows dance upon the forest floor, moving with an otherworldly grace. The air is thick with the sound of rustling leaves and the distant whispers that seem to echo through the trees, sending shivers down the spine of any who dare to venture within. In the kitchen of the abandoned house, decay holds sway, with peeling wallpaper and rusty appliances bearing witness to the passage of time. Moonlight filters weakly through grimy windows, casting eerie shadows that seem to writhe and twist upon the cracked linoleum floor, as if alive with some unseen presence. In the heart of the forest lies an ancient cemetery, its weathered headstones standing sentinel over the graves of generations long gone. Moonlight bathes the scene in an ethereal glow, casting shadows that seem to dance among the graves, whispering secrets of the past to any who will listen. Within the abandoned house, a desolate bedroom lies silent and still, its once cozy atmosphere now replaced by an oppressive sense of emptiness. A rotting bed frame stands as a silent sentinel against the decaying walls, while tattered curtains flutter in the breeze. Moonlight filters weakly through cracked windows, casting eerie shadows that seem to linger like phantoms in the night. A decrepit bridge spans a gaping chasm, its rusted metal groaning and creaking in the wind. Moonlight reflects off the murky waters below, casting eerie reflections on the moss-covered stones that line the riverbank. The air is heavy with the scent of decay, and a sense of foreboding hangs thick in the air. Deep within the bowels of the abandoned house lies the basement, a dark and musty chamber filled with cobwebs and decay. Moonlight filters weakly through a small barred window, casting eerie shadows that seem to dance upon the damp concrete floor like specters in the night. As dawn breaks, the town square is bathed in the soft light of a new day, casting long shadows that retreat before the encroaching sunlight. The darkness gives way to the promise of a new beginning, but the whispers of the shadows linger, a reminder of the horrors that lurk within the depths of the night. In an old, dusty attic, Emily found a large, ornate mirror covered with a white cloth. Curious, she pulled off the cloth, revealing a beautifully carved frame and a mirror that looked untouched by time. Her friend Jack warned her not to touch it, but Emily couldn't resist. As Emily gazed into the mirror, her reflection seemed to flicker. For a moment, she saw a shadowy figure standing behind her. She turned around quickly, but no one was there. Jack saw nothing and told her it was just her imagination. That night, Emily had a terrible nightmare. She dreamt of being trapped in the mirror, unable to escape. Shadowy figures surrounded her, whispering her name. She woke up in a cold sweat, the image of the figures lingering in her mind. The next day, strange things started happening. Objects moved on their own, and Emily felt a constant cold presence. Jack suggested they move the mirror back to the attic, but Emily felt an odd attachment to it and refused. Emily's grandmother visited and immediately recognized the mirror. She warned Emily about the curse, explaining that the mirror traps souls and that they must destroy it before it's too late. Emily was skeptical, but agreed to consider it. That evening, Emily started acting strange. Her eyes glazed over, and she spoke in a voice that wasn't her own. Jack realized the mirror was possessing her and tried to snap her out of it, but she attacked him, screaming that they mustn't destroy the mirror. Jack and Emily's grandmother decided to destroy the mirror. They grabbed a hammer and approached it cautiously. The mirror's surface rippled, and shadowy hands reached out, trying to stop them. With a desperate swing, Jack shattered the mirror. As the mirror shattered, a wail echoed through the room, and the shadowy figures dissolved into smoke. Emily collapsed, unconscious but unharmed. The room felt lighter, and the cold presence was gone. Emily woke up, confused but relieved. In the days that followed, Emily recovered and felt grateful to Jack and her grandmother. They disposed of the mirror's remains and made sure to never speak of it again. The house felt peaceful once more. Emily redecorated her room, replacing the mirror with a beautiful painting. Life returned to normal, and the haunting memories faded away. They knew they'd faced something dark, but their bond was stronger than ever. On a cold, misty evening, 4 friends, Alice, Mark, Sarah, and James, stand before Blackwood House, an old mansion with a dark history. Mark, the brave one, dares everyone to spend the night inside. Despite their fear, they accept the challenge, eager to prove their courage. The iron gate creaks as they push it open and step onto the overgrown path. The front door groans loudly as they push it open, revealing a dark and dusty foyer. Cobwebs hang from the ceiling and the air smells of mold. They switch on their flashlights, revealing old furniture covered in white sheets. As they step inside, the door slams shut behind them, making them jump. They move into the living room, where a grand piano sits covered in dust. The wallpaper is peeling, and antique furniture is draped with sheets. Alice notices a photo on the mantelpiece, a family portrait with the eyes scratched out. She feels a chill and steps back, bumping into Sarah. A soft whisper echoes through the room, sending shivers down their spines. "Did you hear that?" James asks, his voice trembling. They listen intently, but the whispering stops. Mark tries to laugh it off, but the fear in his eyes betrays him. They decide to explore further. In the kitchen, they find rusted appliances and broken dishes scattered on the floor. The air is colder here. Sarah opens a cupboard, and a pair of glowing red eyes stare back at her. She screams, and the eyes disappear. The cupboard door slams shut on its own, and they all back away, terrified. They find a door leading to the basement. James suggests going down, but Alice hesitates. The others convince her, and they slowly descend the creaky wooden stairs. The basement is pitch dark and damp. Their flashlights reveal old, dusty furniture and strange symbols on the walls. In the basement, they find an old table with a Ouija board. Suddenly, the planchette moves on its own, spelling out, "Get out." A low growl echoes through the room, and they see a shadowy figure with glowing red eyes. Panicked, they rush back up the stairs, tripping over each other in their haste. Desperate to leave, they race towards the front door. The house seems to come alive, with doors slamming and ghostly wails echoing through the halls. They struggle to open the front door, finally breaking it open and escaping into the night. The house falls silent behind them. Outside, they collapse onto the grass, gasping for breath. The mansion looms dark and silent behind them. They vow never to return, each one haunted by the night's events. The night is cold, but they feel a sense of relief and safety as they walk away. Back at their homes, they try to return to normal life. But each night, they are haunted by nightmares of the glowing red eyes and the whispers in the dark. The memory of that night stays with them, a constant reminder of the terror they faced.
As the setting sun casts long shadows over the forest, a group of friends arrives at a remote cabin nestled deep within the trees. Excited for a weekend of hiking and relaxation, they unload their belongings from the car and take in the tranquility of their surroundings. Little do they know, the forest holds secrets darker than they could ever imagine. As night falls, the friends gather around a crackling campfire, the flames casting flickering shadows on their faces. They share stories and laughter, enjoying the camaraderie of their weekend retreat. But as the fire dims and the forest grows quiet, a sense of unease settles over the group. In the morning, the friends discover an old map hidden among the cabin's belongings. Intrigued, they decide to follow its cryptic instructions and venture deeper into the forest in search of hidden treasure. As they set out on their journey, they can't shake the feeling that they're being watched. Following the map's directions, the friends stumble upon an enchanted grove hidden deep within the forest. The trees whisper secrets to one another, and strange symbols adorn the ground beneath their feet. As they explore the grove, they feel a sense of otherworldly power coursing through the air. As the friends linger in the grove, they catch sight of shadowed figures moving among the trees. Their movements are silent and swift, and their eyes gleam with an otherworldly light. Fear grips the group as they realize they're not alone in the forest. As night falls, the forest comes alive with malevolent energy. The shadows grow thicker, and the air grows colder as the friends find themselves lost in the labyrinthine depths of the woods. Panic sets in as they realize they're trapped in a nightmare from which there's no escape. With adrenaline coursing through their veins, the friends make a final stand against the darkness that surrounds them. Armed with courage and determination, they confront the shadowed figures that haunt the forest, knowing that their survival depends on their ability to overcome the evil that lurks within. As dawn breaks, the darkness recedes, and the forest falls silent once more. The friends emerge from the depths of the woods, battered and bruised but alive. They breathe a sigh of relief, grateful to have survived the night, but knowing that the memories of their harrowing ordeal will stay with them forever.
Lily received a mysterious letter inviting her to an old mansion that once belonged to her ancestors. She had always been curious about her family's past and decided to visit. The mansion was isolated, surrounded by overgrown trees and an eerie silence. As she walked towards the door, the sky turned gray, and the wind began to howl. Lily pushed open the heavy wooden door, which creaked loudly. Inside, the mansion was dark and dusty, with cobwebs hanging from the corners. An old chandelier hung precariously from the ceiling, and the air was thick with the scent of decay. The door slammed shut behind her, making her jump. Lily stepped into the grand hall, where portraits of stern-looking ancestors lined the walls. Their eyes seemed to follow her as she moved. She felt a chill run down her spine as she heard faint whispering. The room was dimly lit by the light filtering through the grimy windows. Lily found herself in the mansion's library, filled with dusty books and old furniture. An old leather-bound book lay open on a desk. As she approached, she saw it was a diary detailing strange rituals and mysterious disappearances. The air grew colder, and she felt an unseen presence watching her. Lily discovered a secret door behind a bookshelf. She hesitated but then pushed it open, revealing a dark, narrow staircase leading down. The air was damp and cold. With her flashlight in hand, she began to descend, the sound of her footsteps echoing in the silence. The basement was even colder, with strange symbols painted on the walls and an old wooden table in the center. On the table were ancient artifacts and melted candles. Lily felt an overwhelming sense of dread. She heard whispers growing louder, almost as if they were coming from the walls themselves. Lily's flashlight flickered and died, plunging her into darkness. Panic set in as the whispers turned into screams. She fumbled to turn the flashlight back on. When she did, she saw a ghostly figure standing by the table, staring at her with hollow eyes. She backed away in terror. Desperate to escape, Lily turned and ran up the stairs. The house seemed to come alive, with doors slamming and shadows moving around her. She reached the front door, threw it open, and ran into the stormy night, her heart pounding. She didn't stop until she reached her car. Breathing heavily, Lily glanced back at the mansion as she reached her car. In an upstairs window, she saw the ghostly figure watching her. The whispers faded, but the memory of that night would haunt her forever. She drove away, vowing never to return. Emily, a young historian, inherits the infamous Blackwood mansion from her estranged great-uncle. Accompanied by her friends Jack and Lucy, she arrives on a stormy evening, the rain pouring down as they make their way through the overgrown driveway. The mansion looms before them, dark and foreboding. "Are you sure about this, Emily?" Jack asks, his voice barely audible over the howling wind. "We need to know what he left behind," Emily replies, gripping the ancient key tightly. Inside, the mansion is a maze of dusty rooms and forgotten relics. The grand staircase is adorned with cobwebs, and the air smells of mildew and decay. They split up to explore, flashlights casting eerie shadows on the walls. "This place is a historian's dream," Emily says, opening an old book. Lucy shivers. "More like a nightmare." Jack finds a locked door in the basement. "Hey, I think I found something." After breaking the lock, they enter a hidden room filled with strange artifacts and occult symbols. In the center, there's an altar with a dusty old book and a glowing amulet. "This must be where he performed his rituals," Jack says, examining the symbols. Emily picks up the amulet. "Look at this. It's beautiful." Lucy steps back uneasy. "I don't like this place. We should leave." That night, they decide to stay in the mansion. As they settle in, strange things begin to happen. Doors creak and whispering voices echo through the halls. Emily is awakened by the sound of footsteps in her room. "Who's there?" she whispers, clutching the amulet. A shadowy figure moves in the corner, vanishing when she turns on the light. The next day, Emily and her friends delve into the old book they found. It reveals a dark history of the Blackwood family, including a curse that promises eternal torment to anyone who disturbs the amulet. "This explains the strange occurrences," Emily says, her voice shaking. "We need to put the amulet back." "But where does it go?" Jack asks. The book mentions a secret crypt beneath the mansion. They find the entrance to the crypt hidden beneath a trapdoor in the basement. The air is cold and damp as they descend the stone steps. The crypt is filled with ancient tombs and eerie statues. "This place gives me the creeps," Lucy says, her voice echoing. Emily finds a pedestal with an indentation matching the amulet. "This must be it." As she places the amulet on the pedestal, the ground shakes, and a ghostly figure appears, screaming in rage. That night, the mansion becomes a nightmare. Ghostly apparitions roam the halls and objects move on their own. The friends are terrorized by relentless hauntings. They gather in the living room, trying to come up with a plan. "We need to banish the spirits," Emily says, holding the book of spells. Jack nods. "Let's do it together." They begin the ritual, their voices shaky but determined. As they recite the banishment spell, the apparitions grow more aggressive. The temperature drops and a fierce wind blows through the mansion. The dark figure from before reappears, trying to stop them. "Keep going!" Emily shouts over the chaos. With a final shout, they complete the ritual. The figure screams and dissolves into mist. The wind dies down, and the mansion falls silent. "We did it," Lucy whispers, tears of relief in her eyes. The next morning, the mansion feels different. The oppressive atmosphere is gone, and sunlight streams through the windows. The friends prepare to leave, feeling a sense of accomplishment. "We should document everything," Emily says, looking back at the mansion one last time. Jack nods. "Let's make sure no one else has to go through this." They lock the doors and drive away, leaving Blackwood Mansion and its dark history behind. Back home, life seems to return to normal. But one night, Emily finds the old amulet on her bedside table, even though she left it in the crypt. Her heart races as she picks it up, and the room grows cold. A whispering voice fills the room. "You cannot escape the curse." Emily turns to see the dark figure standing behind her, its eyes glowing with malevolence. She screams as the room plunges into darkness. On a foggy autumn evening, four friends, Lucy, Tom, Ava, and Ben, stand before Greystone Manor, an abandoned mansion known for its haunted past. Ben, always the thrill-seeker, dares the group to spend the night inside. With a mix of nervousness and excitement, they agree, pushing open the creaky iron gate and stepping onto the overgrown path leading to the mansion. The front door groans loudly as they push it open, revealing a dark, musty foyer. Cobwebs hang from the ceiling, and a thick layer of dust covers everything. The air smells of mold and decay. They switch on their flashlights, casting long shadows on the peeling wallpaper as they step inside, the door slamming shut behind them. They decide to explore and find themselves in a grand library, filled with old leather-bound books. A large, dusty chandelier hangs from the ceiling, and an ancient fireplace sits cold and empty. Lucy notices a book lying open on a table, its pages filled with strange symbols. As she touches it, the chandelier above them begins to sway. A sudden cold breeze blows through the room, extinguishing their flashlights. In the darkness, they hear faint whispers and the soft sound of footsteps. Panic sets in as they fumble to turn their flashlights back on, only to see a shadowy figure disappear into the next room. They follow the figure into the kitchen where old rusted appliances and broken dishes litter the floor. The air is colder here and the feeling of being watched intensifies. Ava opens a cupboard and a pair of ghostly eyes stare back at her. She screams and the cupboard door slams shut on its own. In the hallway, they find a door leading to the basement. Ben suggests going down, but Lucy hesitates. The others convince her, and they slowly descend the creaky wooden stairs. The basement is pitch dark and the air is damp and chilly. They feel an overwhelming sense of dread. In the basement, they find an old wooden table with strange markings. A low growl resonates through the room, and they see glowing red eyes staring at them from the far corner. Panic-stricken, they scramble back up the stairs as the growling grows louder. Desperate to leave, they race towards the front door. The house seems to come alive, with doors slamming and ghostly wails echoing through the halls. They struggle to open the front door, finally bursting out into the cold night air. The mansion falls silent behind them. Outside, they collapse into the grass, gasping for breath. The mansion looms dark and silent behind them. They vow never to return, each one haunted by the night's events. The night air is cold, but they feel a sense of relief and safety. Back at their homes, the friends try to return to normal life. But each night, they are haunted by nightmares of the ghostly eyes and the whispers in the dark. The memories of that night remain vivid, and they realize that some horrors can never be forgotten. Blackwood Manor, a decrepit Victorian mansion, looms ominously amidst the dense forest. Boarded-up windows and crumbling facades tell tales of neglect and decay. The moon's pale light casts an eerie glow upon the scene, setting the stage for the horrors that lie within. The once manicured grounds of Blackwood Manor now lie in disarray, overrun by tangled bushes and fallen leaves. A thick fog rolls in from the surrounding forest, blanketing the landscape in an eerie haze, obscuring whatever secrets may be hidden within. The iron gates of Blackwood Manor, once grand and imposing, now stand tall and rusted, barely visible through the overgrowth that surrounds them. A chill wind howls through the trees, carrying with it a sense of foreboding that seems to seep into the very bones of those who dare to approach. Within Blackwood Manor, the foyer is shrouded in darkness, illuminated only by flickering candlelight that casts long shadows upon the faded wallpaper. Dust dances in the air, stirred by a silence so palpable it feels almost suffocating, as if the very walls are holding their breath. In the dining room of Blackwood Manor, a long table is set with decaying remnants of a feast long past. Cobwebs hang from the ornate chandelier above, their delicate threads swaying in the stagnant air. The scent of decay hangs heavy, a grim reminder of the mansion's forgotten glory days. Within Blackwood Manor's library, dusty shelves groan under the weight of forgotten knowledge. Moonlight filters through stained glass windows, casting colorful patterns upon the worn carpet. The air is thick with the smell of aging paper and the secrets contained within the ancient tomes that line the walls. In the ballroom of Blackwood Manor, a grand chandelier hangs from the ceiling, its once glistening crystals now dull and lifeless. Moonlight filters through broken windows, casting eerie shadows upon the cracked dance floor. The room echoes with the ghostly laughter of revelries long past, a haunting reminder of the mansion's former glory. Within the study of Blackwood Manor, dusty books and forgotten artifacts clutter every available surface. A single candle flickers on the desk, its feeble light casting eerie shadows upon the walls. Ghostly figures seem to dance in the darkness, their presence felt but never seen, adding to the sense of unease that permeates the room. In the bedroom of Blackwood Manor, a canopy bed stands like a relic of a bygone era, its once luxurious linens now covered in dust and cobwebs. Moonlight filters through cracked windows, casting eerie shadows upon the peeling wallpaper. The room is frozen in time, a silent witness to the horrors that haunt its halls. As dawn breaks over Blackwood Manor, the backyard is bathed in the soft light of a new day. The full extent of its decay is revealed in the morning light, as mist rises from the damp earth, shrouding the crumbling structures in an ethereal glow. The horrors of the night retreat with the darkness, but the memory of their presence lingers like a shadow upon the land. It was a dark, stormy night. 4 friends, Tom, Lisa, Mark, and Anna, stood outside an old, abandoned manor on the outskirts of town. They had heard stories about the place being haunted and decided to explore it for themselves. With a mix of excitement and fear, they pushed open the heavy, creaking door and stepped inside. The interior was dark and dusty, with cobwebs hanging from the ceiling. The air was thick and musty. They walked into what seemed to be the living room. An old chandelier hung from the ceiling, and a grand piano sat in one corner, its keys covered in dust. Suddenly, the piano played a single haunting note, and the friends froze in fear. Deciding to explore further, they moved into the library. Shelves filled with old, decaying books lined the walls. Lisa picked up a book, and as she opened it, a cold breeze blew through the room and the candles flickered. They found a door leading to the basement. Hesitant but curious, they decided to go down. The stairs creaked with every step, and the air grew colder as they descended. The basement was dark and damp. In the basement, they discovered old furniture and strange markings on the walls. Suddenly, they heard whispering voices all around them. Mark shined his flashlight towards a corner, revealing a ghostly figure standing there, watching them. Panicked, they ran back up the stairs. The house seemed to come alive, with doors slamming and windows rattling. They finally burst out of the front door, breathing heavily and vowing never to return. Back at their homes, they gathered together, still shaken by the experience. They knew they had encountered something truly supernatural and agreed to never speak of it again. In the heart of Hollow Creek, an abandoned house sits atop a hill, its windows shattered and its doors hanging off their hinges. The locals whispered tales of a family who disappeared without a trace, leaving behind only the echoes of their screams. But when a group of teenagers decides to spend the night in the house, they quickly realize that the rumors were just the beginning of the horrors that await them. As the group of teenagers gathers outside the house, they dare each other to spend the night inside, eager to prove their bravery. With nervous laughter and shaky hands, they push open the creaking door and step inside, their hearts pounding in their chests. Little do they know they're about to come face to face with the horrors that lie within. As the teenagers explore the house, they feel an oppressive presence weighing down on them, a sense of malevolence that seems to seep from the very walls. They hear whispers in the darkness and catch fleeting glimpses of shadowy figures out of the corners of their eyes. Fear grips them tight as they realize they're not alone in the house. As the night wears on, the teenagers uncover clues about the house's dark past. A family torn apart by tragedy, their spirits trapped within the walls for eternity. They find old photographs and newspaper clippings, piecing together the story of the family's demise. But as they delve deeper, they awaken something sinister that has been lying dormant for years. As the night progresses, the house comes alive with paranormal activity. Doors slam shut on their own, objects move of their own accord, and ghostly apparitions appear in the darkness. The teenagers huddle together, their screams echoing through the empty halls as they realize they're trapped in a nightmare from which there's no escape. With adrenaline coursing through their veins, the teenagers make a final stand against the evil that haunts the house. Armed with makeshift weapons and fierce determination, they confront the ghostly apparitions that roam the halls, knowing that their survival depends on their ability to banish the darkness that lurks within. As dawn breaks, the paranormal activity subsides, and the house falls silent once more. The teenagers emerge from that darkness, battered and bruised but alive. They exchange weary smiles, knowing that they've faced their fears and emerged stronger for it. Though the scars of their ordeal will never fully heal, they take solace in the knowledge that they've conquered the darkness that once threatened to consume them. In the fading light of evening, an eerie abandoned manor looms ominously. Its once grand facade is now dilapidated and covered in vines. Surrounding the mansion, overgrown weeds and dead trees seem to claw at the earth, adding to the sense of desolation. The windows, like vacant eyes, gaze out into the encroaching darkness. Within the manor's garden, nature has reclaimed its territory. Overgrown plants and twisted branches create a labyrinth of shadows. Moonlight struggles to penetrate the dense foliage, casting eerie shadows that seem to writhe and twist upon the cracked stone pathways. The entrance to the manor, once grand and imposing, now stands in ruins. Cracked pillars and a broken staircase lead to a doorway, obscured by darkness. Moonlight filters through the gaps, illuminating the dust particles that hang heavy in the stagnant air. Inside the manor, the foyer is shrouded in darkness, illuminated only by flickering candlelight. Eerie shadows dance on the peeling wallpaper, while dusty cobwebs hang from the ornate chandelier overhead. The air is thick with the scent of decay, as if the very walls are exhaling the secrets they hold. In the dining room, a long table sits abandoned, covered in a thick layer of dust and cobwebs. Moonlight filters through broken windows, casting eerie patterns on the decaying floorboards, as if the ghosts of past feasts still linger in the shadows. Within the library, dusty shelves groan under the weight of forgotten knowledge. Books with cracked and faded spines line the walls, their pages yellowed with age. Moonlight streams through stained glass windows, casting colorful shadows on the threadbare carpet, as if the spirits of literature themselves haunt the halls. In the bedroom, the bed frame sags under the weight of neglect, its once luxurious bedding now tattered and torn. Moonlight filters through broken windows, casting eerie shadows on the peeling wallpaper, as if the room itself is trapped in a nightmare. Deep within the bowels of the manor lies the basement, a place of darkness and decay. Rusted pipes line the walls, dripping with moisture, while moonlight filters weakly through a small window, casting eerie shadows on the damp concrete floor, as if the very walls themselves are whispering secrets. Outside, the manor's backyard is engulfed in a raging storm. Lightning splits the sky, illuminating the darkness with its blinding light, while thunder rumbles ominously in the distance. Rain lashes down, turning the earth to mud, as if the very heavens themselves are unleashing their fury upon the forsaken grounds. As dawn breaks, the manor grounds are bathed in the soft light of a new day. The full extent of their decay is revealed in the morning light, as mist rises from the damp earth, shrouding the fours.
Four friends, Jake, Emily, Noah, and Lily, stood outside an old, abandoned house on a dare. The house was infamous in their town for being haunted, but they decided to spend the night there to prove their bravery. They pushed open the rusty gate and walked to the front door, which creaked loudly as they opened it. Inside, the house was dark and musty, with broken furniture and cobwebs everywhere. In the living room, they saw an old, dusty couch and a broken chandelier. Suddenly, a cold breeze blew through the room, making them shiver. They heard a faint whisper, but couldn't tell where it came from. They decided to explore upstairs. The wooden stairs creaked with every step. At the top, they found a long hallway with several closed doors. They heard a strange scratching sound coming from one of the rooms. They opened the door to the room and saw a rocking chair moving on its own. The temperature dropped suddenly, and they saw the faint outline of a ghostly figure in the corner. The figure whispered, "Leave this place." Panicking, they ran downstairs and found a door leading to the basement. Despite their fear, they decided to investigate. The basement was even colder and darker. They found strange symbols on the walls and old, dusty furniture. In the basement, they heard footsteps behind them. Turning around, they saw the ghostly figure again, now clearer and more menacing. The ghost raised its hand, and the friends felt an icy wind pushing them towards the stairs. Screaming, they ran up the stairs and out of the house, the door slamming shut behind them. They didn't stop running until they were far from the house. They vowed never to return, and to never speak of what they had seen.
At the edge of town lies the entrance to the Whispering Woods, a place shrouded in mystery and whispered tales of the supernatural. The path winds its way into the heart of the forest, disappearing into the dense mist that clings to the trees like a shroud. Deep within the woods, a group of friends has set up camp for the night, seeking adventure in the unknown depths of the forest. A small campfire crackles and hisses, casting flickering shadows that seem to dance in time with the whispers that echo through the trees. In a moonlit clearing, the dense canopy of trees creates an oppressive atmosphere, suffocating the sounds of the night. Moss-covered ground crunches beneath the feet of the campers as they venture deeper into the heart of the woods, a sense of foreboding settling over them like a suffocating blanket. Suddenly, the group stumbles upon an old, abandoned cabin nestled among the trees. Its windows are shattered, and the door hangs off its hinges, swinging ominously in the breeze. Moonlight filters through the cracks in the walls, casting eerie shadows that seem to dance and sway with a life of their own. Inside the cabin, the main room is a scene of decay and neglect. Decaying furniture sits shrouded in cobwebs, and dust hangs thick in the air like a tangible presence. The only sound is the creaking of floorboards beneath their feet and the distant whispers that seem to emanate from the very walls themselves. In the bedroom, a tattered mattress lies abandoned amidst peeling wallpaper and crumbling plaster. Moonlight filters weakly through a cracked window, casting eerie shadows that seem to writhe and twist upon the walls like living things. Descending into the basement, the air grows thick with the scent of decay and mold. Rusted chains hang ominously from the ceiling, their purpose long forgotten. The sound of dripping water echoes through the darkness, a constant reminder of the relentless passage of time. In the attic, cobwebs cling like shrouds to forgotten relics of a bygone era. Dusty trunks sit amidst a clutter of long-forgotten possessions, their secrets buried beneath layers of neglect. Moonlight filters through a broken skylight, casting an ethereal glow upon the abandoned treasures that lie hidden in the shadows. Venturing deeper into the heart of the woods, the trees close in around them like silent sentinels, their twisted branches reaching up towards the sky like gnarled fingers. Moonlight struggles to penetrate the thick canopy, casting eerie shadows that seem to dance and sway with a life of their own. As dawn breaks, the first light of morning filters through the trees, casting a golden glow over the clearing. The campfire smolders, its flames reduced to embers, and the forest is bathed in an eerie silence that seems to linger long after the night has passed.